if there's a simple question, I guess I would start with somebody with that could then lead to a tool to help you. It's like, what do you do that others can't or won't do? I mean, if you can identify that, then I would say, systems and processes, whether you use like attraction or like there's strategic tools for, I've always been I've liked scaling up and, there's all the tools within a product like that. But I said, fundamentally, hopefully you can answer that question. If you can answer that question, what do you do that others can't or won't do? Then I think you got something that you can grow and scale.
Welcome to the Your Seat at the Table podcast with your hosts, Idea Monkey Mike Maddock and ringleader John Tobin. We're two founders, a serial entrepreneur and $1 billion operator, who talk to leaders about how, when, and why they made their most pivotal decisions in life. Join us as we share wisdom, mistakes, and a few laughs learning from the brightest minds in business today.
Okay, so my story.
Wait. Let me do the welcome to the seat.
Okay.
Your Seat at the Table podcast. This morning we have our friend, Dan Costello, who's the CEO of a brand that if you're from Chicago, you grew up eating. Home Run Inn Pizza. It's a great, great pizza. I have a story I'll tell you later about it, Dan, but welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good Monday morning. Great way to start the week. Tell us your story, Dan. Tell us about your family, how you got started in the business, where you grew up.
Well, I grew up with it. So I grew up, it's my mom's side of the family is where the pizza side comes from. So I'm a fourth generation. We're a fourth generation business, a fourth generation family member. So I grew up as a kid going to the original Home Run Inns on 31st Street in Little Village, part of Chicago. Every Sunday we were there. Grandparents had, come over from Italy, so they hosted big family Sunday dinners. We had to go every Sunday. So we were exposed to the restaurant very early in our lives. We're, literally like we'd go there, we'd hang out in the kitchen, we'd run around, we'd answer phones, and they'd feed us every Sunday, me, my cousins. So we did that for lots of years as we grew up and just kind of got exposed to it and always, loved it. I mean, it was something that, we identified with, and it was very important to everybody in our family. So as I went through school and education, did jobs there in the summers, got out of college, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, was actually enrolled in law school, and decided not to go. I sat with my uncle, my mom's brother, and he was like, look, the business is growing. We got a couple restaurants at this point in time. He had started frozen pizza. He was, really we had been in the frozen pizza business since the 50s, like just making pizzas and freezing them in the kitchen. But he was the one who really kind of was trying to innovate and upgrade the manufacturing and really started that. And he's like, look, I need help. He's like, you go to law school. He's like, but if you would, could you come work for me for a couple of years, maybe help me? And if you want to go back, you go back. Well, as most family business goes, once you start, you kind of
it's like the mafia. Once they get you
sucked in, yeah, right. So I was sucked in. Me and my brother, a couple of my cousins. I wound up spending a good part of my time on the restaurant side, early part of my career, and then as the business was growing, and my uncle really, he was innovating on the frozen side and really started our distribution and expanding that. We grew our restaurants, we grew our frozen presence. And we fast forward, just steady growth throughout the years. And unfortunately, in 2018, he had a massive heart attack. He was in very good shape. He was a 4 or 5 time marathon guy. Was very fit. It was a shock to the whole company and our family that we lost him at young age, 62, I think he was. And so at that point, then the family, like our governance models had to kick in, and we had, internal board, and we had to elect a CEO. And that's when I became CEO in 2018. So since then, we've been, really kind of keeping the same, trajectory and path. We're growing our frozen side. We're taking care of our restaurants, trying to, become, really break out of being a strong regional brand, CPG brand. We are nationwide and, through the Albertson Safeway system, but we're working with, retailers, Walmart, Publix, HEBs, Kroger's across the country. So that's kind of where we're at today. So I work a lot on, the vision and strategy of the company with our team and continue to try to elevate what we're doing.
So uncomfortable question number one, Dan.
Yeah.
I have another good friend who's fourth generation business, and his grandfather skipped over his father to tap as a CEO.
Yeah.
And I've heard the stories of how difficult family businesses can be because, on one hand, you love each other, you trust each other, it's all in the family. On the other hand, you have to look across the table at Thanksgiving dinner at someone that's a little bit annoyed at something that happened at work the day before.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the pressure, or how, you get, elected as CEO in a fourth generation family business? That couldn't have been easy for you. I mean, that has to come with more pressure than I can imagine. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I would say even it probably wasn't easy for anybody,
Right.
quite honestly. And I would say, my uncle worked really hard on succession, but particularly like in how the shares passed down. But the one thing that I think he stopped short of because it became so emotional was how do you have management succession?
Yeah.
Um, and like I would say today we're set up better where we have an independent board with outsiders that would be the next round. When I finish my career, is that we'd probably have an independent panel helping decide that. But when you have brothers, sisters, cousins
Yeah.
deciding who's going to be the CEO, unfortunately, what happened at that time to be, one of our, I was going head to head with one of my cousins for the role. I mean, there's two people who wanted to do it, and then the election process was designed to a point that was good enough that we would get a vote, and we knew and understood how the vote would work, but it still pitted family members against each other, and it wasn't ideal, even for the people who had to cast the votes. It was like it was uncomfortable for me and my cousin, but it was also uncomfortable for the people who had to cast the votes. And I think that would be one thing I would tell any family is like when you can get your family members, um, when when you can design your governance system so you don't have to be there, I would recommend. I think it's a good way to look at not putting family members against each other because it did, and what led shortly after, within 2 years, the family member that I had edged out for CEO left the business. We bought out his family. That's what they wanted. They didn't want to be part of it. It was not
Yeah.
ideal.
Sounds messy.
Yeah, it got messy, and I think we tried to, during that time period of about 2.5 years, say, how do we make it a win-win? What do you really want? Is there any way we could work this out where you could stay? But it was just, it was just there, right? It was just like, no, I think he felt that I was, people
Yeah.
didn't want me, right? That, I don't want to put words in what he would say he felt, but it became clear. He's like, I don't want to be here anymore. So, and it wasn't easy.
Family members still in the business then? Like whichever side or even from your own like almost immediate family?
Yeah. So what it was, there was three families. It was my mom, my aunt, and my uncle.
Okay.
So now my aunt's family has exited the business. So my mom and my uncle's family, so were the kids. So in my mom's side, it's me and my oldest brother, who's on our board, are active in the business, and then we have two brothers that aren't active in the business. And then on my uncle's side, and he's no longer with us, he has three kids. All three of them are active in the business, so cousins of mine. So
Oh wow.
this generation, two active on my side and three on my cousin's side. So there's five of us.
Hmm.
There's seven total. I have two brothers, like I said, that aren't active. But as shareholders, they vote on certain topics and issues. We just elected a board; they voted on that. They would vote theoretically, like if somebody wanted to buy the company, do we want to sell it? We've prescribed where the shareholders are active and where they vote and where they weigh in at.
Is it difficult running a business that is both a restaurant on one side and a consumer packaged goods company on the other? Talk about that a little bit. It's got to be really wonky because,
Yeah.
yeah,
It is. It's systems and processes are different on both of these parts, and we're trying to. That's where sometimes we kind of spin our wheels. The restaurant side and the frozen side. Just there's so many differences in terms of how you can scale them, and how you and the people side of them are just they're the same, but they're different, right? And when we use the restaurant side for us becomes it's a marketing tool and branding tool. It's over the years, you know we've fed millions of people through the restaurants throughout all the decades. I mean, 77 decades of doing this. But running them and trying to keep them healthy, it's a much more intense side of the business. I would say it feels more intense. The manufacturing side is intense in its own way, and we have different issues with when you're dealing with retailers. That's like your customer there. So it's even funny, like at least on the restaurant side, we're dealing directly with our customer, and on the frozen side, we're trying to deal with our customer via the retailer. So there's just a different mindset for all of it.
it has to be good for so from a research perspective, you're serving food, you can test new product, et cetera. So here's a question for you. I grew up, John grew up in your neighborhood. I grew up down on the south side, Glenwood. So I grew up with the Aurelio family.
Oh, yeah.
And I became aware of Aurelio's because they sponsored my Little League baseball team.
Yeah.
And then in high school, that's where we'd go and act like we were going to meet girls, although we never did. We were there every weekend. Were you jealous? Were you jealous when the Pope showed up all over the Aurelio's brand? I mean, come on.
I'm a big fan of Joe Aurelio. So he is so it's a tight community. And for the most part, we're all, whether it's Mark Malnati or Joe Aurelio, Tom Fox, and we know all these people, and I'm a big fan of Joe Aurelio. He's always been very kind to me, so I was really happy for him. I was happy that the Pope is from Chicago, and I thought it was pretty cool that he's a Sox fan. So,
he's a Sox fan. He's like totally endorsing. So, okay, here, John, I'm going to give you a shot here, but what makes a good pizza, Dan? What you got to be. My dad worked for Keebler, so I was so tired of eating cookies by the time I was 12. I won't ask you if you still like eating pizza, but I do want to know what makes a good pizza.
Look, at the end of the day, I think the pizzas that stand the test of time typically have something to do with their dough. They do something.
Yes.
We all buy the same cheese, or for the most, it's whole milk mozzarella. The tomatoes are. You can add a little bit you can maybe have your sauce stand out, but I think when you really do a nice job, you're doing something with your dough that the consumer might not even know what you're doing. I mean, people would always tell us, "Oh, you guys put butter in your crust." I'm like, "No, we don't," but that's fine. Whatever you want to think it's okay. It's so. But I usually think it comes down to when somebody's got something that's going really good, you can say, "Wow, that dough is." Whether it's my flavor profile or not, I can tell it's something that they're paying attention to and that they're doing something really nice with it. So,
yeah, I'm not a connoisseur of pizza, but I will say that when I talk about good bread, I've said this a few times. When you go to France or Italy, the bread just tastes better, and it's just very simple. It doesn't feel like there's a lot in it, and it tastes pure. And you've got that going on in your crust. And
that's from my grandpa. He's from Southern Italy. It's a very simple recipe. You know what it is? It's just we've aged it. We age it, and nobody ages it on the frozen side of the business.
It totally comes through in the taste profile.
So let the yeast do its job. That's
you guys have a Brother Rice story you want to tell? Like, what makes that school so great? It obviously cranks out some really great business people.
Probably would have been Coach Joe back then when John was there. Right?
What sports did you play, Dan?
I played football and baseball.
Okay.
Yeah. So I loved Coach Mitchell and Coach Joe Johnson. Those guys were great, and I think. And then I had Sedlacek for a bit. He retired my senior year. I missed him my senior year. I really liked playing for him too. So
their baseball program is really good now. It's pretty. Pretty
Yeah, we were
impressive.
fine. I mean, we were like a mid-level team back. We were like always around a little over 500, but not like what they are now. They're just crazy good now.
I played soccer, and so Coach
Oh,
Nick Marcoulin, if you
Mark
remember
Coolin,
him,
yeah.
and he was Mike, this guy like thick accent like
Yeah.
this, and he would take your
German.
sideburns and like rip your sideburns. Tobin, Tobin,
Yeah.
crack the ball, crack the ball, Tobin.
Yeah.
And it was just like they beat you. They would basically beat you, and it got it. You know, it was
I
fine.
mean,
Like he
Coach
took
Joe, you
it.
knew it was coming. Like he had this big old ring, and
Oh yeah.
when you're in trouble, he'd turn it, and you knew that he was so he'd get the so bang right.
That's what my dad did. Is that a Notre Dame thing? What's happening?
I mean, it was like you call you a crap head, and but he would leave like a hand mark on your wherever he hit you. Like just rattle you.
So
So
Dan, this is maybe an obvious question, but like as the uh, produce side kind of came up, and that did that start? You said you were making frozen pizzas in the 50s, but as you got into more stores, was that in like the 2000, like during your
Oh,
time or before your time? And then is that a much? Is it on the revenue side? Which side does like a lot more revenue? Is it more on the produce side? I'm guessing, but I'm
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
curious on that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so a couple. I'll go with the easy part there. So they're like today, where we stand today, 85-90% of what we do is the frozen CPG
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
That probably crossed 50-50 in the early 90s.
Oh, okay, okay.
Probably were
Yeah.
cross paths.
Oh, so
So
quite a while then. Okay.
yeah, it's probably, but it was always like, even when it crossed, it was 50, 55, 45, 55,
Yeah.
45, 60, 40, just kind of like, and then I think over the last, I would say since 2008, where we launched, partnered in our distribution company, that's
Uh,
where the frozen side really accelerated away from the restaurant side. Um, when the frozen side, to get back to the other part of your question, is it really probably started in the late 80s, early 90s is when the frozen. So my uncle, like, we were making frozen pizzas like in the 50s. The story, it's a cool little story. It was a guy was coming in. This is and my grandfather. He was Depression era, so he didn't like a lot of change. He was
yeah.
very against. Like he's like wanted one restaurant. Live in the back of it. You live upstairs. That's your life. That's what he wanted my uncle to do. And my uncle's like, I want to do a little bit more than that. So, but the way that the Frozen story goes is a guy came in is sometime in the like early summer, like in I'm assuming like a May, and he's like, hey, can you make me? We used to call them snack packs. I don't know why the name of it was like a snack pack size was 10-inch frozen pizza or 10-inch pizza. He goes, bake it halfway for me, and if you don't mind, just wrap it up.
Hmm.
Um, and that's like the first time my grandpa was like, why do you want a pizza? And he's like, make me 10 of them. Why do you want 10 of them? Why do you want them baked halfway? Like, what is that all about? And the guy goes, well, I'm going up to my summer home in Wisconsin. And he goes, I got I got an ice box, and this 10-inch pizza fits in an ice box back then. So he's like, and I eat one a week. I'll be up there for like 10, 12 weeks, and I love your pizza. So I'll just put it in my oven. And that was so our bartender was like, hey, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
On my way home, there's a corner grocery store. Why don't you guys make about 10 or 12 of these? On my way home, I'll drop them off. And then on my way back to work the following, week, I'll just do it once a week. I'll pick up the money. So he was our first distributor.
that's
So
amazing.
Wow.
again, the guy's name was Frank. So that's how it started. So, but that's the 50s and 60s, and that's all we did with it. And then my uncle, as he was kind of coming into, his own leadership, and he like, look, he liked the restaurants, but he right away he's like, man, if I could figure out a way, this is the way he always told it, if I could figure out a way to make our product frozen and get it into back then Jewel and Dominic's, right? Dominic's
Yep.
back in, and he's like, that would be great. That would be awesome. So he started really trying to figure this out in this, late 70s, early 80s, how to do it. Built his first factory behind the original restaurant in 1987. So John, that's like really when the frozen business started. We were making
Okay.
frozen pizzas, but I think the business really started like late 80s. And then he went to Jewel and Dominic's, which were the dominant retailers of the Chicagoland back then. And he got into both. And it grew from there. And it grew pretty well into the 90s. But then it was in, oh man, yeah. I think I said 2008. I'm wrong. It was earlier 2000s. Like it was like 2002 when we started the distribution company with a partner of ours, and that's when it really took off.
You're in 40 states now. Is that 40 plus? Or?
We're in all 50.
Oh, wow.
Just with Albertson Safeway, yeah, and then
Okay.
Walmart. Their distribution points are a little hard. We're probably in about 20, 25 states with them, and Kroger
Okay.
we're predominantly Midwest. So.
Is
But
that
yeah.
a little bit more difficult to work with maybe Walmart or Costco or like kind of those specific big chains versus something like an
Yeah.
Albertsons, or they're all kind of tricky, I would guess. But
They're all tricky in their own right. Like, I mean, there's parts of Walmart I really appreciate. I mean, it's very clean and simple. You know where you stand, right? And so here's our best
yeah,
price. So I think when you hear the stories like Walmart puts people out of business, I was like, well, it's like if you don't have a handle on your margins, you can't. I mean, it's really, I think it's always more on you than them. But I can appreciate it. It's a lot easier for me to understand my P&L with Walmart than it is for some of these other retailers because of all the charges and all the fees and all the deductions. And it's
yeah.
like, but Albertsons has been pretty good to work with. But I would say is as they consolidate, Albertsons is consolidating banners and Kroger. That's a little bit worrisome. On like I know we probably all when Kroger was talking about buying Albertsons, we didn't feel like that was going to be a good thing for the industry. And I'm a few credits short of my economics degree, but I think I'm glad it didn't work out. Um,
I
but
it is an interesting part of business that there's so much consolidation that happens,
there's a
and
lot going on.
you're right. That's if there's too big of like almost monopoly, that's just tricky. But
Yeah, I mean, it really would be then like there'd be like two retailers in the country. It's like it's Walmart and whatever that new entity would be, and then you got some smaller regionals, but they keep getting got. Now somebody like Publix we like working with.
yeah,
I don't see them going. I mean, they're really strong grocery brand. So that yeah,
I
but they're
have we
all
have
got their things.
we have a mutual friend, all of us, and Rand Stagen. And Rand once said,
Yeah.
a good friend stabs you in the front, Mike. And he was talking about how people that care about you tell you the truth in front of your face instead of in the back, hitting you in the back. And I have a buddy who is in sells through retail, and he said 10 years ago, he said that about Walmart. He's like, all these other guys, I don't know what they're doing. They're sending stuff back. They're taking discounts. I don't know what the rules are. Walmart tells you what you need to do, and then they do it. Like it's just, they're very straight shooters. Hey, Dan, you are in a Flourish forum, and you can sit in the rainmaker or orchestrator seat. I want to talk about the orchestrator seat and you in particular. I think I know what your superhero power is, but you have this tremendous ability to empathize with all kinds of people. You're kind of the glue in a group. You kind of hear and see everyone and bring ideas together. How did that serve you during COVID? Like you're leading a company, and the wheels fall off. Tell me about how you led during COVID or if there are any lessons that you came away with.
Yeah, I think where that probably helped the most at that time is like a lot of our workforce is a blue mindset, traditional blue collar workforce. If we're going to go with the worldviews from our Stagen training,
Yep.
and there's a lot of fear. And I think one of the things I've always been able to do, my uncle always would tell me this too, is like I can talk, I can at least sit with somebody and not put them, not, I can generally disarm situations. So I was able to communicate pretty well during that time where I had to go to the shop floor, or the manufacturing floor, or the restaurant side, and just like, guys, here's the deal. I don't know everything that's going on right now. I don't know if this FedEx box that just got delivered here has COVID on it. I mean, they're telling us that maybe it lives on. I don't know, but
Yeah.
this is what I do know is like we have like. Fortunately for us, I think like the grocery business exploded, and we were busy, and we need pizzas, and we have work, and we're going to do everything we can do and study this thing every way we can to understand how to keep people safe. And if you could just give us a little bit of trust and a little bit of grace that we don't know everything, we'll tell you as we learn. We will tell you everything that we know. So we didn't try to hide anything. We didn't try to protect anything. And I think our people, what the result was, they trusted us. And, for the most part, we got through it, and it was because it was really hard. I mean, we could have ran 7 days a week. I remember there was like, I think we had a week before Easter, whatever the year was right now. I was like, oh my gosh. I had only 4 forklift drivers I only had 4 people in the company that could drive a forklift. 3 of them had COVID. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to have to shut the factory down if one guy gets COVID. Wow. Because we can't move product around. We can't move raw materials around the facility. I'm like, I never thought about that. But, I'm kind of going on a tangent there, but it was a lot about was talking to people, trying to keep people safe, asking them to trust us, telling them we didn't know everything. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm just hopeful. And, but we were busy, and then we invested more money too. I mean, we said, look, we want, this is the time for us for everybody to, we want you guys to make more money. So we did, bonus pays and values pay, but I think a lot of it was really around communication. It's like someone told me once, the guy he's in the barbecue, he's like, we've all heard sayings like this, like, whether you're communicating or not, right, you are, right? You're just, so if you choose not to communicate, you're communicating. If you choose not to say something, you're communicating. So it's like, so I think we took that to heart and like, it's impossible to over communicate was the way we kind of approached it. And I think then my personality allows me I could talk to somebody.
It's such a huge nugget. I mean, like, John, this has to resonate with you because the whole leadership, we, as a young person, I thought I needed to have the answers. Sometimes the best answer is, I don't know what's going to happen, because people, they read that as like that you're being so honest, and thank God, at least you're telling me what's going on. And then they're willing to stand up and go, okay, let me try to help. Maybe I can help you figure it out. John, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, no, completely. And I was just thinking, you do come across, Dan, like just super authentic, and the vulnerability to be able to say, I don't know, and, hang in there and just empathize with people. It comes across even within this conversation. So there's a little bit of that Midwest thing, I think.
Yeah,
in
me
there.
too.
Yeah. Like you got to be honest, and you always try to do the right thing. And so, the very values based, it makes a big difference in people's lives, honestly. And that's almost a family like atmosphere, I can imagine. You almost are exuding the family business, but extended family in a way.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you.
Did you have a leader that you look up to, Dan? Like someone that is a mentor for you?
Your uncle. Husband? I guess, but
yeah, he did a lot of really good things, and I think a lot of that was the way that he would also have approached it if he was with us. And then I think outside of our organization, I try to, going through the staging program, get exposed to a lot of ideas and principles and concepts and a lot of philosophy. And there's probably been all bits and pieces I've tried to take from lots of different leaders, some known, some unknown. I think one guy that I like to study is just think about the really difficult choices he probably had. It was like a Winston Churchill type.
Yeah,
awesome. I loved reading about him. I'm sure he made a lot of enemies. I know that, but I'm like, I think some of the things he had to do, I was just like, oh man, that's like, that's like a really hard choice to make right there. I mean,
Yeah,
some really difficult things, and
he
whether
was
they're
brave.
right or wrong, I'm just trying. Like I look at somebody like that and be like, I'd rather make. It's about not being stuck, right? You get to these points, and the decisions that I have to make, thankfully, aren't of that type of scale. So every time I get like, oh man, this seems like a really tough decision about this, and it's like, it's in the grand scheme of the world. No,
He had
it's
some real
yeah,
stones, and he he started drinking like with his coffee in the morning, and
yeah,
he's so quotable. Like
And
yeah,
cigars.
it's just like it's just
yeah,
see. So
yeah,
talk about legacy, Dan. You're no. Let's talk about Chicago. You are a tavern style quote pizza from
yep.
Chicago. Um, First, tell me why Chicago pizza is better than New York pizza, and then explain how you're going to, as you're now in 50 states and eventually international, I'm sure. How do you maintain, or what do you own about Chicago, and how do you hold on to that as you scale from, 1,000 CPG outlets to 20,000 to 100,000?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about what are the things about our brand that that are what makes us different. What are the things that we can claim that others can't? Um, what are the things that we can do that others can't do or won't do? And I mean, one of the things we can honestly claim, hey, we've been here in Chicago, which is Chicago is the pizza capital of the country. I mean, I
Of
know
course it is.
New York probably doesn't agree with that, but you know, we're 7 decades plus here
Yeah.
doing this over and over and over. I mean, I think that's something that we use that more and more. You'll see us use that especially as we move out and we really try to, build in other regions across the country. It's like, being, that credibility and authenticity. It's time tested. It's, people that know their pizza, the Chicagoans that know they're trusting us. It's like so it gives us some play to use to say, trust us too, try us. Because we really believe on the frozen side, once somebody tries us, you can there's a distinct difference between our frozen product and the folks that we're competing with. And what we can say, what we like to tell people is like we were created in a kitchen, born in a kitchen, not in an R&D lab.
Mhm.
Which the majority of what we're competing with on the frozen side, the majority, not all, they're all just research and development labs, and
Right.
they're trying to manufacture cost out or, construct something where we're like, yeah, we're just trying to do what has been done for the past 80 years.
If you were going to talk to a founder that was trying to scale across a couple different types of businesses, so you've got restaurant
Yeah.
and CPG, is there a tool that you rely on, like some kind of framework or something that is your go-to when you're trying to think strategically about the businesses?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are tools. I'm wondering which one I would say. I think, you're getting clear. I honestly, if there's a simple question, I guess I would start with somebody with that could then lead to a tool to help you. It's like, what do you do that others can't or won't do?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can identify that, then I would say, then these systems and processes, whether you use like attraction or like there's strategic tools for. I've always been because I've liked scaling up and there's all the tools within a product like that. But but fundamentally, if hopefully you can answer that question. If you can answer that question, what do you do that others can't or won't do? Then I think you got something that you can grow and scale.
All right.
And
So
it sounds like partnerships is a big thing within your industry in particular. And so finding those good partnerships like you did with the distributor, that seems like a big key for scaling. Am I reading that right?
I mean, I think, because then you have stuff, then you have like, what can you do that others can't? You still then have to figure out the tactical things that unlock things. And, for us, the distribution side of things and getting your product, especially in Chicago, because, it was very important because that was all about the shelf space.
Yeah.
that if I boil that down, it's like, how do you get, how do I get as a local brand? There's two facings of Home Run Inn, and there's 12 facings of DiGiorno. Well, how do
Yeah.
I get to 12? Well, the only way to do that then was you got to you got to do your own distribution. If you don't do your own distribution, the retailers aren't going to do it for you. So yeah, then that became something like, within the context of what we were trying to do. Like, all right, we got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we ask each of our guests is about decision making. We were talking about decision making and tough decisions, if you think of it that way. Can you share a story? And it could be when as a CEO, but it could be before that, where you were responsible to make a key decision, and then can you walk us through a little bit of the scenario, and then how you came up with that decision, or who you maybe asked advice around that decision, and how did that all kind of go down, basically?
Okay. Well, I would say the majority of the tough decisions I've had to make, I'm going to probably say it's 100% of the time. We've laid out four values of the company: family, pride, grit, and courage. And then we've defined them. So family means that
Awesome.
we're all in. Because what we did learn in this is I could say family, and that might mean something different to everybody. But then family means all in. So what does that mean? Well, that means you got to show up. And what does that mean? Well, it's like when on your restaurant side or frozen side, like if you're on a schedule but you don't show up, you leave your family in a lurch, right? So that's a really tough thing. Pride is high standards. So what does that mean? It's like, well, if we're setting KPIs and we're setting goals, we're not gonna. We'd rather aim high and miss than aim low and hit, right? So we have to have the pride and the courage to actually, that was one: family, pride, grit, courage. Courage is we got to do hard things. We have to have tough conversations. We have to clear issues. We have to be willing to, seek higher standards. And grit, we got to learn. We got to constantly learn.
Hmm.
If we're not investing in education and learning, then learning something that is meaningful is not easy. So you got to grit through it. So I would say, John, in any decision that I've had to make that was difficult, whether it was we've had to close locations or um, we had to, even part with a with a shareholder, with a third of our shareholder base,
Yeah.
always able to go to the values and say, all right, how do I do this?
Hmm.
So, I think a tough decision, like, taking out a loan that, to help exit. I mean, I would say it like that: to help exit somebody who didn't want to be here, because my thought was at this point is if we can't be aligned at the top,
Yeah.
nothing good will go over the next several years. And there was a lot of debate about this. It's like you would take out dead money that's not
Yeah.
creating an asset, to exit somebody. But I'm like, it's that important that if we can't have alignment at the top, I really felt like that would prevent us from growth. And I think within that, you know, relying on the values to have the courage to kind of step into it with my cousin and have it's like, if this isn't going to work, then how do we do this? Studying the equation, um, it was very valuable. And then also having grace around it, like doing it where it was, as healthy of a transaction it could be for both parties. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was one of the most difficult decisions I had to make, obviously. And I think a couple of other ones were also, I think that was an example one. I think the other ones that I think kind of have always weighed on me is like, it's probably typical. I think this is probably fairly typical in family businesses, is when you have a certain person who's been in a role for you for a long time.
Mm.
And then you're starting to get to the point where the company's starting to
Yeah.
elevate, escalate. And then it's like, oh boy, this individual, now the role and what we need from that role is different than what we needed.
Yeah.
What do you do? It's like, do you
Yeah.
leave the person in there and not do anything, which is what our habit would have been? Or do you have the courage because you have to elevate? Like, this is all about seeking potential. So if the person now is starting to hit a ceiling, how do you handle that? Those have been probably some of the more difficult ones that I've dealt with, because that was a departure, I would say, from the way my uncle
Yeah,
managed and led. So then it's like, then I'm feeling like people are going to look at me like but we had to do it because that's a really tough one, I think, because now we're talking about a person, a human being that has been with us for 10, 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
but they have definitely bumped up against the ceiling that we need of, so they're just not the seat has outgrown them and outpaced
Hmm.
them now. So now, anytime I've had to have those conversations, I would start with courage. I'm like, I got to be a courageous. I can't be the person to sit back and just say, I want to ignore that. I want to turn a blind eye to that.
yeah. You have to, as a leader, you have to make decisions for the good of the whole.
Yeah.
And I suspect that your fifth value that you didn't mention is loyalty. So when you have it's in the top 10, I know it is. And so when you're trying to make a decision that's competing with another value on the list, that makes it much more difficult.
Yeah, there's polarities to these things.
Yeah,
It's like,
totally.
oh boy.
And it
And
makes
we've had it, unfortunately, I've had about 4 or 5 of these where it's like this person, you look at their career and what they did for us, but now we're at a point where we gotta do something. So we've been able to, I think the more you do it too, sometimes you improve, and you also like we try to look at it like, all right, from the family, and we're all in, and how do we make this a win-win? But
Hmm.
how do we also, seek a higher ground on this as well?
every leader who's has a heart is resonating with what you're saying, Dan.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. All right, John, do I have your permission to give some rapid fire questions?
Go for it.
All right, so Dan, I'm going to ask you quick questions. Don't think too hard. Just ready to go.
Okay.
Ready? I've got 9 or 10 of them. All right, so what's one decision you'd make faster if you could go back and do it again?
Changing out my old CFO.
Great. Which leadership lesson did you learn the hard way but wouldn't trade it for anything?
Doesn't matter who makes the decision as long as we get it done.
Oh, that's good.
Make a decision. Don't not make a decision, basically.
Don't worry about credit, I guess is the way I would say. Don't
Oh,
worry
yeah.
about
okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, I won't ask for more details. As I said, these are rapid fire. So,
Yeah. Like,
what's the best piece of advice you've ever ignored?
oh gosh, I
Don't push that button. Don't touch that.
don't grow your overhead too quickly.
Oh, that's interesting.
I could explain. Yeah, I could explain it.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good follow-up question for people if you want. That feels like a painful
I mean,
lesson.
there's content that I'd have to explain a little bit more. but
Yeah. Okay, here's one. If Home Run Inn wasn't pizza, what other business would you want to run?
Coffee.
Yeah?
Love
I
coffee.
thought you'd go with baseball. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Coffee or scotch. I could
yeah.
Nice.
I mean, what if I was a distiller? That'd be fun, I think.
I think I sense a thread in the leaders you want to study and the businesses you want to run. What book has changed the way you lead?
Hard thing about hard things.
Yeah, that's a good one. What one habit that makes you a better CEO?
Journaling.
One habit that makes you a better dad?
Journaling.
One habit that makes you a better friend? Let me guess.
Journaling.
How long have you been journaling, Dan?
Ever since I started staying.
That's
so
good.
what is that? I mean, performance journals. They help me a tremendous amount.
Awesome.
Do you still do it like every week or on like what's your cadence on
I usually do it in my weekly focusing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe on top of that is reading more. I read more now. I read every day now. So I would maybe as a better dad or friend, even like just reading more, like studying people or philosophies. I think as between writing and reading, I think those are things that have helped me.
A belief about business you hold that most people would disagree with.
I don't know. I don't know if people would disagree with it, is that there's a way to put people first and be really successful. I don't know if people would disagree with it, but I'm just
I
thinking
think there'd be some business leaders that would disagree with that, for sure.
probably
If you
some.
could have dinner with one business leader, past or present, who would it be and why?
Um, hmm. Probably just maybe is it recency, and I was just listening to a podcast, Howard Schultz.
Yeah. You're on the
I mean,
coffee. You're on a coffee.
like listen, but just some of the. Oh my gosh, what a great story, right? I think he'd be fun to have dinner with.
John, you're in Seattle. You can hook him up, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've met him a couple times. I remember I
Would
was
I enjoy? Would I
interviewing.
enjoy my dinner with him, John? Would that be
I don't. If you can get a word in edgewise.
okay? You see, I don't. Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
I will say the there is like a cult like following at Starbucks, about coffee, about Howard Schultz. It's kind of interesting. I just before I started Slalom, I was interviewing to be the director of architecture and report to the CIO. And he, when I met the CIO, he gave me Howard's book, Pour Your Heart Into It.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you need to read this and before you meet everybody. Like, and that was like in 2 days. It is a good story though. I have to say it's pretty quick, easy read. But that story is pretty amazing.
I think it's hard to be a leader like Howard Schultz, and not have it, you know, be overly caffeinated. I mean, that guy probably gets fed in every meeting about what an
Yeah.
amazing difference
Yeah.
he's made, you know.
I might think about that. I might change it too, or
Well, I hope you're
I
happy,
just-
John. You talked him out of it.
no, it popped in my head. So,
All right. What's the boldest idea you've said yes to that terrified you?
the boldest idea.
That you've ever said yes to that terrified you?
Oh, I guess. I mean, I think I was pretty scared when I said it. All right, I looked at all the numbers. We can afford to take exit a third of our family. I
Yeah.
was like, oh shit, like
Dan, do you know how many friends I had that actually studied law, practiced for like a year, and then said, I cannot do this with my life? And
yeah,
so I think probably a pretty good decision based on the look back that your
yeah.
uncle
I
said,
really
hey,
didn't
come
want
on,
it.
come help me out,
I
man.
knew I did. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then so my uncle just kind of pulled me in. He's like, so and it worked out.
Did you learn how to drive a forklift? You feel like the kind of guy that
No, I
would.
didn't. Maybe I should have.
Okay, last question. Legacy, it's 50 years from now. Home Run and Pizza's 50 years older. I don't want to hear what the legacy of Home Run is. What do you want people to have said about you as a leader 50 years from now?
Oh yeah, I don't. I like. First of all, I want to be. Man, he was a great dad,
Mm.
great husband. I mean, those are my. Like I, the business is like what I do, but it's not like that. These are the people in my lives, like why I live, right? So, but I would hope that people would just, that would recognize that. I mean, I work as hard on that as I do on being a leader, you know?
Yeah.
So for anybody that's worked for me or us, that I hope they would also say that we found a home, like someplace that because this world is so crazy, right? And and I've been able to hire people from the outside, and I hear some of the stories, what they've dealt with at some of these other companies. I'm like, man, that just sounds like I want people to I want people to say, like, working in that company under that leadership it was a place we could call home. It was a place where we could, raise our families, a place we could be safe, a place we could trust, whatever the words are for them. So I would hope that would resonate, when I'm not around. It was just a good place to be, right? It's a place where we could be together and, where people could fulfill their own potentials at some level, right? So,
It's awesome.
yeah.
I have to say, like, the way you speak and talk about your business, your family, your life, it is just, it exudes a great leader. It does.
I appreciate it.
One other thing, I mean, you obviously really got into Stegen. Like, that meant a lot to you, I think,
Yeah.
if you're still journaling. How did you get to Stegen? Did you guys know each other before? Or, because it's not, It's
Well,
not
I
like,
knew.
yeah,
I don't think I knew Mike was at Stegen until after I'd been at Stegen for a couple of years. Honestly, I think it was like, oh, I ran into you. Wait, you're
He
here at
never would have. He
reunion?
never would have gone through the program if he heard I was a result of it.
No, you know what? So Chuck Hall is in
oh,
my
yeah,
YPO forum group, and honestly, it was like going back. I've been with him for 15 years, and he would like use like certain things. Well, let's desired outcome. What's your desired outcome? And like he just had like what I would say like tools or system. I'm like, Chuck, what are these things? You keep throwing this out, and
yeah,
you're talking about this, and like what's this story in the head thing, and then he starts showing me the worksheets, and I'm like, oh, this is all pretty good. Um, and I think what happened then, I hit a rough patch
mm,
at work. Not everything was great with me and my uncle and the family business, and family members, and it was so. What am I? 50, about when I was about 40 years old, I was almost left the business, and it was my John Drury experience came up then, Mike.
Yeah.
So like I had to reach out to somebody that I had met through the YPO network, and I worked with this John Drury for 6 months because it was really the way I was. A lot of it was the way I was reacting to things that were happening. And what I kind of put two and two together was what John was preaching was a lot of it coincided so much with the way Chuck was going about his, like how Chuck would show up to forum or how Chuck would show up to things in his business. And that's when I was like, hey, Chuck, tell me about this again. Where'd you get all this stuff? Because this John Drury guy's telling me about sounds really similar, different words, but same principles. And then Chuck's like, it's his Stegen program, man. You got to, and so then I was like, I did the work with Drury, and I'm like, I want more of this because I started figuring out, I was starting to have better impacts with the way I was, showing up to work and honestly at home with my wife and my kids. So that
Yes.
led me down that path, and I didn't ever want to go back. I didn't ever want
that's
to
awesome.
not be, yeah.
And
It's
so
Very
it's a really
for people
good time.
listening,
Like you're 40 years old and you're kind of stuck in a rut,
I was
and
stuck.
you could be that
Yeah.
victim, and you figured out a way to kind of rise above it and change your
Yeah.
mindset. Frankly, it's
Yeah,
really
the,
cool.
the family business could be crushing at some levels. I mean, it was smothering me, my wife, my family
Mm,
life. I mean, it was tough. It was tough.
the for people who are listening, wondering what we're talking about, Rand Stegen has a company out of Dallas called the Stegen Integral Leadership Program, which is a program where if you're looking to rise up in leadership, it's really amazing. He's done a great job, and it's a community of curious leaders who are trying to make themselves better. It is referral only, so if you're listening to this, hit up any one of us and ask for a referral. And Chuck and I went through it together. Chuck Hall, who's an incredible leader, because Rick Sapio, God rest his
Yeah.
soul, had approached both of us and said, you should do this. And we believed him, so we did. And John Drury, who Dan also mentioned, is a wonderful. John used to own an ad agency in Miami. He sold it and started coaching, and has worked with Dan and me and our a number of leaders that we really respect, helping us think about life better. He's a great coach. So it's such a small world when you start
Yeah.
thinking about the interconnectivity. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
show me your friends and I will show you your future.
Yeah.
Coach John Wooden. So, Dan,
Yeah.
thank you for showing up, and thank you. You answered every question that we asked with such humility and transparency. So thank you for that too. You didn't
Yeah.
dodge. There are a couple questions I was a little uncomfortable asking you, but thank you. I
You're
really
really
appreciate you.
living your values. It's super clear.
Thank you, John.
Love
Yeah,
it.
I'm glad we got
Family
to meet
pride,
too.
grit, courage. Love it.
Yeah, I
Appreciate
want to
it.
encourage you two brother Rice guys to get together outside this podcast. I think
Yeah,
you
we'd
could
love
make a
would love to
difference
look
together.
you up when I'm back in Chicago at some point.
That'd be great. Well, and you're in Seattle?
Yeah.
So my dad's from Seattle. So I grew up, my summers were in Seattle. So I love the Pike's Place Market there. And,
Yeah.
I actually got the
See it in
kids
the
out there.
background there.
Yeah, I got the kids out there last summer because I'm like, I got to get them out to Mount Rainier because that's what we did. My dad's a teacher, so we'd spend a month every I spent a lot of time in Seattle.
Where
so I
did
don't
you?
know.
Where was your dad from specifically in the Seattle area?
Uh, it was near, I think, what I would, it's the Laurelhurst area. Does that?
Laurelhurst. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
Laurelhurst.
over
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
I mean, my grandma, I don't know what the actual neighborhood was. She wasn't in Laurelhurst, but all I know is she had friends in Laurelhurst, and they would take us there to go swimming. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Right in the lake.
We
there.
share that in
Yep.
common. We did summers in Seattle too, Dan. So
Yeah.
there you go. All right. Well, thank you, Dan, so much
Great.
for creating such a good pizza. Oh, one last story. Last night, I was telling my youngest son Cody that we were going to be talking today. And he goes, "Oh, I love it. Has a home running pizza has such a spot in my heart." And I go, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Because every every Friday at Ben Franklin, we had a slice
yeah.
of home run in pizza until the
Okay.
fifth grade." And he has like political views about the fact that he couldn't have home run pizza after the fifth grade. It was hysterical. He goes, "That's why I love home run in pizza." So
Work on it. Get that kid into leadership, man. You know what I'm saying?
Making me hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Dan, thank you so much. I look forward to
right.
seeing you soon.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.